This isn't a surprise. It's one of those weird things where it's like there were enough people corroborating a story that that she is going around telling people in Iowa that she will not be back in college. She's leaving after the semester. Not leaving at the end.
That phrase right there, quasi violation of rules, Rudia, is pulling serious weight, because what's blowing up at Iowa isn't just about one player sitting out a game. This goes way deeper than a routine suspension. Emily Rodriguez, the sophomore guard who transferred in from Las Vegas, is now on an indefinite suspension and won't even travel to New York for the UConn matchup. And that alone raised eyebrows everywhere. But here's what really makes this messy. This didn't come out of nowhere. People around the program have been whispering about this for weeks before it ever went public.
I suppose on what additionally cryptic comment means, I guess where your two-hour position violation rules for feigning injury due to displeasure playing time or due to disrespectful interaction with coaching staff for the general same reason. And look, Emily Rodriguez has a lot of ability. Let's not ever question that. Like, there were flashes where she looked unbelievably good. Problem is, those flashes were against garbage teams. Transfer portal calling her name, Iowa standards. Did it really unfortunate? She was an important contributor and difference maker. She should have been. She was not an important contributor and difference maker.
Multiple sources say Rodriguez has been telling folks she's done with college basketball. Not after the season, but after this semester. That kind of talk doesn't stay quiet in today's women's game, and once it leaks, everything spirals fast. So when Iowa says violation of rules, people are reading between the lines. The chatter has been loud and specific. Reports of injuries being exaggerated to dodge practice time, tense moments with coaches, and zero buy-in to what Jan Jensen is trying to build in Iowa City. These aren't vague vibes. These are behavior problems that wreck team culture. And the wild part? Talent was never the issue. At Las Vegas, Rodriguez showed real flashes as a high-level playmaker, and against weaker competition this season, she looked electric. But when ranked teams showed up, that spark vanished, and that contrast is impossible to ignore. This points to something way bigger going on in women's college basketball right now, and people don't want to admit it. There's a serious information leak problem. In men's basketball, when a player has internal issues, that stays locked down until a team makes it official. In the women's game, especially at the high major level, everything spills out early, fast, and loud. We've already seen this play out publicly. Random Twitter accounts were claiming Aaliyah Boston was leaving the Indiana Fever for the Phoenix Mercury weeks before anything was confirmed. She misses one game for personal reasons, and suddenly, anonymous accounts are saying she's gone for good, long before the team said a word. That's not normal. That's not how professional sports are supposed to work.
This is one of the weird things about women's basketball is that people know what's going on, and they shouldn't. This is one of those annoying things where it's like, people know things that they shouldn't know what's going on with some of these players behind the scenes because people talk too much. This is now like high-level pro sports. You're going to be seeing them. You're going to be seeing all these teams pulling any sort of bet gambling on the WNBA, gambling WNBA games. They know it's why you're not allowed to gamble on Irish basketball games. Like, in most bookies, do not take Irish basketball gambling.
Internal situations shouldn't be public property before teams can even respond. And the same pattern shows up again with Rodriguez. People around Iowa have been backing up the same story for weeks. She's reportedly been telling people in Iowa City that she's done after this semester, not entering the portal at season's end, but leaving mid-year. That kind of chatter spreads fast and makes discipline almost impossible for coaches trying to keep order. And here's why this goes beyond messy gossip. Gambling. In parts of Europe, sports books have already pulled back from certain basketball leagues because information leaks too easily. When everyone knows injuries, locker room drama, or internal tension before lines move, insiders gain a massive edge. We're starting to see that same pressure hit WNBA betting markets. When private issues go public early, it creates an unfair advantage. And if this keeps growing unchecked, it's going to turn into a real integrity problem fast. The Emily Rodriguez situation really lays this whole thing bare. If you knew weeks ago that she was telling people she planned to leave mid-semester, you could have seen this coming from a mile away. A suspension, a reduced role, maybe even being removed from the rotation entirely. That's not just chatter.
Every single person in the country would know that. And people would just start putting mad money on the other team to win games. And it was at the stage where it was like, people go in with accumulators, which is like parlays. And I knew people that would. They made like in the thousands of euro by like basically putting parlays on because they knew had insider information on every fucking team in the country. because everyone just talks. It's that small thing where it's like, it's at the stage now in women's basketball. It's like people know. People know, like there's random Twitter accounts, like players are hopping on spaces.
That's actionable information, the kind that absolutely should not be floating around publicly. But let's slow this down for a second and keep some perspective because this part matters. Rodriguez is 20 years old, maybe 21 at most, still a sophomore, still learning how this world works. No matter what rule was violated, no matter how justified this suspension might be, and it probably is, judging someone's entire future off mistakes made at 20 is wild. Be honest with yourself. Think about the decisions you made at that age. The maturity you had, the professionalism you showed, how you handled authority or pressure. Most people wouldn't want their whole life defined by who they were at 20, and athletes shouldn't be any different. Rodriguez does have real talent. She contributed at Las Vegas, and she absolutely has the skill set to be a rotation player on a ranked team. This isn't about ability. It's about maturity, discipline, and learning how to operate at the highest level of college basketball. And those things can grow. Jan Jensen has made it clear there's still a path back at Iowa if standards are met. That's how leadership is supposed to work. You don't toss away a talented 20-year-old over behavior issues. You lay out expectations and give them a real chance to rise. Now, will Rodriguez take that opportunity? Based on reports of her saying she's done with college basketball, it doesn't look likely. But that choice is hers. And whatever she decides will shape the next chapter of her career in a major way. Let's be real. Emily Rodriguez is not a WNBA level prospect right now. Maybe she believes she is, and honestly, that mindset might be part of the issue. Because if you can't meet professionalism and team standards at Iowa, then you're not ready for the pros. Not even close. The WNBA isn't softer than college basketball. It's stricter, faster, more demanding, and way less forgiving. So where does this leave Iowa? Uncomfortable? Sure, but manageable. They're not losing someone who was central to their rotation against top competition. Rodriguez's biggest games came against teams Iowa was already set to beat either way.
Like, if we're being honest, not the first place seeing a moment like this season. A few others even navigate returns of team violations. Don't think she will. Don't think she will. And look, at the end of the day, it's not over. It's not over if she doesn't. If she's young. What age is Emily Rodriguez? 20? If even. She's a sophomore. She does not have her age on ESPN, but she's a sophomore. She's probably 20s. Maybe 21 at the oldest. And at the end of the day, look, you are...
So this isn't a season-ending blow. And it doesn't derail what Jan Jensen is building in her first year as head coach. But for Rodriguez, this is a full-on crossroads moment. If she leaves mid-semester like sources suggest, she enters the transfer portal with a suspension attached and serious questions hanging over her professionalism. Will she still find another team? Absolutely. Talent always finds a home, but the level of interest won't be what it could have been if this was handled cleaner. The program's calling will likely sit a tier lower. She still has 2 years of eligibility left. That means a mid-major program could give her the keys, make her the primary ball handler, and give her a real shot to rebuild her name. Or, and this matters, she could step away from basketball for a bit. If burnout is real, that might actually be the healthiest move. What I hope happens is simple. As Rodriguez gets older and gains perspective, she looks back at this as a lesson, not a label. Because what you do at 20 doesn't have to define your entire future. People grow, people mature. Professionalism isn't something you're born with. It's something you learn, sometimes the hard way. The talent is there, the basketball IQ is there, and that's never really been in question. What still needs work is the mental approach and the willingness to meet team standards even when it's uncomfortable. And those are coachable traits. If the player is willing to be coached, based on everything coming out, Iowa is absolutely within its rights here. If reports about exaggerated injuries to avoid practice and disrespect toward the coaching staff are accurate, then suspension is the correct move. You cannot protect team culture if that kind of behavior gets a free pass. It sends the wrong message to everyone in the locker room.
She probably did break a rule. The suspension is probably deserved. But I also have no doubt about it that she's a talent. And look, she's going to have 2 more years of college. She's going to have 2 more years of college to play where she can get out of Iowa. And sometimes things don't work out. And at the end of the day, even if she is being unprofessional, even if she is being bad, if we were all judged by the decisions we made at 20 years old for the rest of our lives, geez, we'd all be fucked. We'd all be fucked. Like, even looking back on some of the shit that I tweeted when I was in my early, like 23, 24, I'm like...
Now, could Iowa have handled things differently? That's a tougher conversation. Every athlete is different, and sometimes behavior that looks like resistance is really frustration, adjustment stress, or personal pressure we don't see. Mental health challenges and off-court situations are real, and outsiders never have the full picture. But coaches still have to act on the information they have in front of them. Jan Jensen gave Emily Rodriguez a real opportunity to be part of something meaningful in Iowa City. If Rodriguez wasn't ready to meet those expectations or didn't want to commit to that structure, that's not on Jensen. That's a player decision. And here's the key part. The door isn't fully shut. If Rodriguez changes course, recommits to team standards, and shows through actions, not words, that she's ready to be a dependable teammate, that path still exists. But based on reports of her telling people she's done with college basketball, it sounds like her mind may already be made up, and that choice will shape what comes next. And this is where the bigger picture really hits. Situations like this don't just affect one player. They send a message across the locker room and the entire program. When teammates see standards enforced, it tells them the culture actually means something. When they don't, everything slips fast. For Iowa, this moment is about protecting the foundation, not punishing a person. Jan Jensen is in her first year building identity, expectations, and accountability. Letting anything slide early would have been the worst signal possible. That's how programs lose control. And for Emily Rodriguez, this is real-life basketball pressure. Not highlights, not hype, reality. Talent opens doors, but reliability keeps them open. Coaches at every level want to know one thing. Can I trust you when it's hard? That's the question hovering right now. If Rodriguez walks away mid-semester, that decision will follow her, not as a permanent stain, but as context. Every coach who calls will ask what happened, how she handled it, and what she learned. That's just how this works. And if she stays away from basketball entirely for a bit, that doesn't mean failure either. Sometimes stepping back is how players reset, refocus, and come back stronger, mentally and emotionally. But make no mistake, this moment matters, not forever, but right now.
It does not seem to be that at all. So anyway, yeah, that is pretty much it, lads. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Have you guys been following this? Do you think that Iowa should be somebody that, or like, you think Iowa should maybe accommodate her more, or do you guys think that Iowa's completely in the right in this scenario? I probably would lean towards Iowa probably being in the right in this scenario. But hopefully all ends up getting sorted, and maybe Emily Rodriguez will be back in the court for Iowa at some stage.
How Rodriguez responds, whether through growth, reflection, or a fresh start elsewhere, will tell people who she's becoming, not who she was at 20. And here's the part nobody likes talking about, but it matters. Women's basketball is growing fast, and with that growth comes scrutiny, expectations, and consequences. Every move gets watched, every situation gets amplified, and there's nowhere to hide anymore. That's the environment players are stepping into now. For Iowa, this is about showing the rest of the roster that standards aren't flexible. Culture isn't something you talk about in press conferences. It's something you enforce when it's uncomfortable. That's how trust is built inside a program. For Emily Rodriguez, this is a moment that can go two very different ways. It can be the point where things spiral or the point where lessons finally click. Every player hits adversity, but not every player responds the same way. And for Jan Jensen, this is leadership under a microscope. First-year head coaches don't get grace periods when it comes to discipline. She had to choose structure over comfort, and that choice sends a loud message throughout the program. The reality is simple. Nobody is saying Rodriguez can't succeed. Nobody is writing her off forever. But growth doesn't happen without accountability, and opportunity doesn't exist without responsibility. This situation isn't about drama, it's about direction. And the next move Rodriguez makes will say everything about where she wants her basketball life to go next. This is also a reminder that hype can move faster than reality. Social media builds players up overnight, but it doesn't teach discipline, patience, or how to handle adversity. That part still has to be learned the hard way. And when expectations don't match preparation, moments like this happen. For programs like Iowa, the margin for error is thin. Every practice matters, every role matters, and every player has to be locked in. You don't get to pick and choose when standards apply, especially at this level. And for Emily Rodriguez, this is where accountability meets self-awareness. Talent alone doesn't keep you on the floor. Coaches want consistency, effort, and buy-in, even on the days you don't feel like it. That's what separates potential from production. The spotlight in women's basketball is only getting brighter. More eyes, more pressure, more opinions, and fewer places to hide. Players who figure that out early thrive. Players who don't usually learn the lesson later, and sometimes the hard way. This isn't about tearing anyone down. It's about understanding what the moment demands. And right now, this moment is asking a very simple question. Are you willing to grow when things stop going your way? So now it's on you. Did Iowa handle this the right way by standing firm on standards and suspending Emily Rodriguez? Or should there have been more flexibility for a talented but struggling 20-year-old trying to find her footing? And if you were in Rodriguez's shoes right now, what would your next move be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. If this breakdown gave you real insight, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with other Hoops fans. We'll keep tracking this story as it unfolds, and I'll see you in the next one.